Right, everyone, it is 8:30. We are just waiting for a few more folks to join as they file in, so we will start the meeting momentarily. Just give us a few minutes. Gustavo, I'll let you start the presentation once everyone's filed in, all right?
Hey, good morning. Thank you, Jenny. Yes, just wait 2 minutes and we can start. Thank you. Good morning, Jenny. I think we can start now. We have mostly all the team members supporting this for today. Jenny, can I have audio confirmation?
I'm here. Do you want to do the opening remarks? And I'll do the agenda announcement?
Yes, ma'am. I'm going to do the opening remarks.
Okay.
Good morning. Welcome back. This morning is 5 minutes past the time that we supposed to start. We have our team that will be supporting this for today. Today we will have a more interactive engagement with the PDT and in the public. Again, welcome back. My name is Gustavo Suarez, planning technical lead for this study in the Army Corps of Engineers, Jacksonville District. And welcome. This morning we are going to have a brief go over what we discussed yesterday. We will have breakout sections for each of the reaches. We have more input from the PDT and the public, and we have instructions how to join. And that's it, Jenny.
All right, this is Jenny Smith with the South Florida Water Management District. So just a reminder, this meeting is being recorded and live streamed. We will have different breakout sections for an interactive experience. For each of the reaches, we'll have instructions, as Gustavo said. So if anyone has any issues or can't reach a reach, you can also put your hands up and we can help you. We can unmute you. I will keep the PowerPoint, the parent PowerPoint open so everyone can see the map of their reach if they're confused on which one they need to go to. So any questions, just put your hand up and we'll get you sorted out. And I think we can go over the agenda real quick. Each reach gets an hour to speak. So you can talk with your moderators. They'll go over the read ahead questions. If you have those open, you can be ready with your questions. And then we will recap and come back to the parent meeting. So there's a little button that says leave your room and go back to the parent meeting. And then we'll do a summary and reporting and closing remarks, just to go over some of the things that we talked about. So any questions, just raise your hand. So,
I think this.
all right, I think that's good.
Can you go back to the previous slide, please? So, let me turn on my camera. The goal for today is a group discussion, team input in draft performance metrics, identify risk performance metrics priorities for each of the USAID accounts for regional economic development, environmental quality, and other social effects. I mentioned during the yesterday workshop, we would like to have your input in terms of what data we have. We received some emails yesterday after our workshop sharing some information. Likely, we want to discuss that today with the group, and that's the goal for today. And remember that your input is very important for us. You are the ones, the experts that live there in your area, so you know what information is available. Also, we want to prioritize the metrics. We probably are going to use all the metrics, but we need to prioritize what is more important for you, what matters the most for this study. So that's the key in today's engagement with our group. There will be a discussion with the PDT when we go over the instructions in how to use Zoom. Please identify yourself if you are a member of the PDT for this study during the breakout sections. Identify with your name, your organization, and at the end, we will have periods for public comments. We will take in notes or questions from the public, and we need to follow our guidance. So be mindful that we have the discussion with the PDT, and after discussion of the PDT, we will take in comments from the public. Is there any questions about this? Andrew, you have a question?
I see no hands
All right.
raised.
Go to the next slide, Jenny, please. Next slide. So from 9 to 10, our goal is to discuss the RED account performance metrics that we discussed yesterday. Our team will go over each of these metrics, asking for input and discussion for each of the performance metrics, draft performance metrics, as we discussed yesterday during our workshop. There will be 4 breakout sections for each reach. Please feel free to join any of the breakout sections. You will have the ability to go back to the main room and join other reach if you want. Just keep in mind that, so if you have interest in one particular region, you will be free to join any of the breakout sections. And if you want to go back to the main room, you will be able to do that. And then you can join other reach if you want to participate of the discussion of other reaches if your area of interest covered more than one of the reaches. Back to the next slide. Go to the next slide. From 10 to 11, we'll be discussing environmental quality, the same breakout sections, 4 breakout sections, 1 for each reach. And again, if you want to go back to the main room, feel free to that, and you can join another discussion for other reach. Next slide, please. The goal from 11 to 12 is to discuss other social effects, and same as in the previous instructions for the other accounts. 4 breakout sections for each risk, and we will have the discussion on the other social effects draft performance metric. Next slide, please. We will be leaving this map open in the main room, so you can identify your area and your breakout sections. And feel free to join any of these reaches or breakout rooms to participate in the discussion. And again, it's very important for us and our team to have your input and feedback and sharing information in for each of these study reaches. And we can go over some of the Zoom instructions. All right. Give me 1 second. Here you see Zoom today. We have options there to participate. Just please raise your hand if you have a question during the breakout sections. Feel free to share your emotions. If you are likely or you're not likely the breakout sections, feel free to use the reaction to participate. For raise your hand. We have also the chat option. Feel free to put there any questions that you have. Our team will be tracking the chat. Feel free to share information, links that you have that you can provide to us. Use the chat option to do that. And there is an option, breakout sections. You will have these options in the bottom of the bar. If you don't see that option and there is kind of three dots, if you don't see the option like I see here in this slide, you have the option for the three dots. Just click that three dots and you will have the option for the breakout rooms. Go to the next slide, please, Jenny. So when you open the breakout rooms, you will have the options for the four reaches, A, B, C, and D. Just click the one that you want to join, and there will be the option to join the reach in the breakout section. So we will be waiting for you in each of these breakout sections. Our team, it will be ready to join to facilitate the discussion for the performance metrics. Next slide, please, Jenny. If you want to leave the room, the breakout section, and go back to the main room, you will have that option at the bottom of the screen. There is an option to leave the room. After you click that, leave the room option, you will be prompted to another screen, leave the meeting or leave the breakout room. Just click the breakout room. We don't want you to leave the meeting. Just click the breakout room and you will be back to the main room and you will have the option to join another breakout room if you want to join any other particular reach. I think that's we have. Any questions? Please raise your hand.
We have a note in the chat from Tim. If you want to read it before we move out, Gustavo.
All right, so we have a note from Tim Geisen, or project management for the project in Army Corps of Engineers. Good morning. It's great to see so many people on this morning today. It's the opportunity for you all to help identify the data and information that may be available to support the application of the performance metrics. These include data your agency has collected or data from non-government organizations, for example, economic data from the Chamber of Commerce. Thank you, Tim, for that note. So, yeah, again, so what we're looking is to have that discussion today for each of the accounts. Hear from you that information that is available on what your ideas have. And remember, we need some creativity for some of these performance metrics. We are going to work today and in the future. And remember, we need to prioritize on them. And as Tim mentioned yesterday, workshop, we need to prioritize areas. So some of these performance metrics are going to support our storytelling to our leadership, how we are going to prioritize some areas in South Florida as part of this study. Okay, Luis, you have a question? Jenny, Luis, can you unmute Luis?
Louise, I think it's Louise.
Give us a moment. Hey, Jenny or Nicole, please.
Hey, Gustavo. Yeah, Lois, I gave you unmuting privileges. If you can just unmute yourself on your end on your phone, you should be able to talk.
Okay, am I unmuted now?
Yes, and we can hear you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
For whatever reason, my bottom screen, I'm not seeing breakout rooms as one of the selections. Is that just me? Or are other people seeing that to click on to move into the
Oh,
breakout
no,
rooms?
it's because we haven't activated them yet. Sorry.
Okay,
So
okay.
once Gustavo is done through the instructions here, either Jenny or I will open them up and then everyone can start selecting. We just didn't want everybody to rush into a room without hearing all the instructions.
Understood. Thank you. I wasn't missing
Thank you.
something. Okay, bye.
Thank you for the clarification. I missed that part. Thank you for asking. Any other questions or comments before we go to the breakout sections? I think we are 9 minutes early, but we can start that discussion. And looking forward to have that discussion. Luis, thank you for sharing that information. We received your email, and I shared that information with our team already, so we'll be discussing that today and looking for that information. So that's the kind of data that we are looking for. So we appreciate that you shared that with us yesterday. It's a lot of good information.
Gustavo,
Yep.
I have one more just notice for the moderators. We tested and made sure that the moderators do have the ability, if they are labeled co-host, to share their screen. If they want to put read ahead materials up or the map, they do have the ability to share screen to lead the discussion.
Thank you, Jenny. And Dr. Carolina Maran, do you want to have additional remarks for today's meeting? Feel free to mute yourself and have additional remarks.
We have another note from Tim in the chat. Tim, you can speak.
No, I know. I was just reiterating what Gustavo had already said about prioritization of metrics and how useful that will be in kind of the storytelling as we move forward, selling things to headquarters, if you will.
Thank you, Tim.
Dr. Carolina Maran, do you have any additional remarks before we go to the breakout sections? With Carolina, I saw Carolina, but okay. All right, so can we activate the breakout rooms now then, so we can join our breakout sections? Cool.
Hey, Jenny, I'm opening them up right now. You guys should see them pop up.
All right, feel free to join your reach and we start the discussion. And thank you for your participation this morning. Looking forward to have a good discussion this morning. And feel free to join any of the breakout sections for any of the reaches. And you can go back to this main room. We will be leaving this map open. And
I'll be monitoring this parent room for any hands raised or anybody that has any issues.
I thank you, Jenny. So feel free, if you have any issues, go back to this room and we try to address any issue or concern that you have. Thank you, and feel free to join any of the research. See some people already joining some of the breakout sections, so that's great.
So we'll meet back here at 10. or we're just gonna go right into the next topic at 10 in each breakout room?
We can go back to 10, depending on how the discussion goes in each breakout section. So I will track with my team how the discussion.
Great.
Right. People joining the breakout room. So. I didn't see Colin. What's Colin on the call? I will go to Rizvi.
Okay, Gustavo, I was going to tell you that there are two people who I didn't see join, which was Colin, and then I had seen Eric join, but then he left and he's not here anymore.
Eric
And
is no. And Timmy, if you
okay,
can, Timmy is Tim can join Rizvi. I'm going to Rizvi if Colin hasn't joined it yet. Thank you.
thanks.
I don't see the breakout sections here for me.
Gustavo, you don't see them in join breakout on the top left? It's like a little like window icon.
Yes.
Click the little ellipses down by more. Yeah. Then minimize on assigned. Click on assigned to minimize. Oh, yeah. Click that.
All right, I see now.
Okay, Jenny, Gustavo, I'm going to start going into some rooms, okay?
I'll be here.
Okay.
Okay,
I
great.
have
Thanks.
I have audio confirmation here. Oh, Colin.
Sure. What's up?
Hey, Colin, can confirm audio with you?
Hey,
Sorry.
Nicole, I'm not sure where we resolved I'm gonna be. Is that Reach B?
Yeah, let me confirm. I have the list in front of me. Hold on.
Okay.
Or I had it in front of me. Give me a second. Okay, here we go. Right now we are in red. Ooh. Jenny, do you have the full list? I think no, this is showing SFW and D people too.
Yeah, Jenny sent the last one out.
Let me confirm it. I was maybe looking at the old one.
The panelist list, what are you looking for?
Just to get Chris's assignment.
I think it's Reach B.
The last one I have is from Gustavo, and I don't see Chris on it.
That is fine. Then I can just go.
I'm looking it up. Gustavo changed it last minute.
Okay.
So you said you're looking for
Chris Carlson.
Carlson. I just saw the old version. I'm looking for it.
Is it that I'm opening it too? I had one that wasn't an email, but I have this panelist. No, this is my list. That is just who got privileges. Let me see.
I think it must be because there's no one in from SFWMD and Reach B on Gustavo's. Oh wait, or Reach A, or Reach D.
Yeah, and I think it depends on the account you're looking at because I'm looking at his email from yesterday morning, which is the last one I have. I think it's like at 7 a.m. And that one, our district people are kind of in like the later topics, Chris. So I think honestly, if Jenny can't find you, I would, feel free to jump into different ones.
Okay.
Hey, Jenny, are you there? Hey, Jenny.
Yes, I'm here.
Hey, I see some people that haven't joined any breakout rooms, making sure that they're waiting on, I don't know, have a reminder to join the breakout sections. They haven't.
I'm assuming that they did not want to go to a breakout session or they have other things on their plate today. So they're just
All right,
listening in.
okay,
So that's what I'm thinking.
right.
That they're just listening
Thank you,
in.
Jenny.
I can put something else in the chat,
Yes,
but no one
that
has
would be
their
great.
hands raised.
Thank you, Jenny.
No worries. Hey, Gustavo, are you there? It's about 10 o'clock.
Yes, we are finishing the discussion and then probably take a short break and go back.
Okay.
Hey, thank you, Jenny.
Are all the moderators directed to send people back to the parent meeting?
I think they're going to continue the discussion
In the
that
breakout room?
So
All
yeah.
right. So I'll
Uh,
put a note on the chat if we take a break.
uh-huh.
How long is the break?
No, it's individually for each breakout room.
Oh, each breakout room. All right, cool.
Yeah. All right. Hey, see you.
All right, hello everyone. It's Kenneth. I just wanted to say that if you were in Reach C, we're going to be joining back in to talk about the environmental quality account. So when you're ready, feel free to hop back in. I'm going to start talking to it and hopefully get some valuable feedback. But yes, just wanted to let you guys know. Reach C, we're going to hop back in to the breakout room and have a conversation. Okay, see you guys there.
Hi, everyone on the meeting. It's about 11 o'clock. I just wanted to let you know that the next breakout session, Other Social Effects, will begin at 11. In each internal breakout room, they're probably going over a small break as they transition to the next topic. So if you are waiting for that topic or listening in or would like to join a reach, jump into your breakout session room. And again, raise your hand if you have any issues getting into a breakout session or if you have any questions. I'll be monitoring.
Hey, Jenny, we are getting back to the main room.
Okie dokie. Is it just one reach? Or are we giving them all till 12 to wrap up?
Everybody's kind of wrapping up. Reach Z, we complete our discussion, so the order is just out finishing.
Okay. Gustavo, do we need to tell everyone to leave the breakout rooms and join the main meeting? There's a lot of people still in the breakout rooms.
Hey,
Yeah,
Jenny, I just sent a
definitely.
message using the broadcast function,
Okay.
telling everybody to make their way back here.
Okay. So I'm
Perfect.
monitoring.
And then Jenny and Tim, we can, when we close it, they still have like 60 seconds and a timer shows up. So
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, Devon says we can close it and they're forced to come back. But I wanted to make sure that they were closing up all their last remaining items.
Yeah, I think everybody's done except for Reach B. Dell said they had the last few comments that they were listening to.
Okay. Yeah, I see everyone's still in Reach B. We can give them a few more minutes. We're still early.
I guess they're the winners as far as getting the most discussion going.
That
what's the prize?
I think they found a lot of ways to talk about the other social impacts.
Oh, good.
Excellent. All right, looks like they're wrapped up and should be rejoining.
I see. All right, Gustavo, let me know when you want me to go to the next slide.
Yeah, I think we are going to have a recap and summary per reach, so let's do that. Let me check with Eva.
All right, I got a note from the moderator, Dell, that Reach B is back, so everybody should be done with all discussions. Do we want to close rooms now, so everyone's pushed back into the parent meeting?
Yes, yeah, let's go ahead and do that.
All right. Devon, would you be so kind as to close everything? Thank you kindly. And Gustavo is going to check to make sure we can progress with the slides.
Hey, Tim, can you do a summary of Reach D if Colin is not available?
I think Nicole would be better at it.
Okay, Nicole.
I think she's taking notes.
Okay.
I can do it.
Good.
Right, Reach A summary is first.
Right, welcome back to the main room. We have a summary and reporting for each of the reaches. We start with reach 8. Go to the slide, Jenny. Sir Evan, are you ready? Who is going to do the summary for your reach?
Hey, thank you, Gustavo. I was muted for a second, but now I am back. Maurice or Fernando, do either of you have notes that you want to share specifically? Otherwise, I can just kind of go over a high-level overview of some of the things that we discussed.
Okay, Evan, this is Maurice. Go ahead with the overall, and if there's anything that you don't cover, I can sort through these notes and try to fill in. But I think we were probably on the same page.
Sounds like a plan then. Okay, I'll go over this just kind of briefly. There's a lot of reaches and everything to go through. So, there'll be a few things that we discussed, I'm sure, in the meeting that we are not going to be relayed here directly, but I'll do my best to do a nice overview. So we started out with regional economic development. We had a lot of clarification about models and other things in this section. It seems like overall, I think the loss of income, business revenue, and tax revenue were capturing a lot of what mattered in this department. There was not a lot of specific input to other specifically regional economic development things. Tourism was mentioned as a very important local factor, although we discussed this more in the EQ account because we were talking about the impacts of wildlife on tourism. But so yeah, RED was not a ton of comments or anything there. Moving on to EQ, the primary performance metrics here that our participants were interested in were the impact to water supply. This is the salinity intrusion metric, flooding of septic tanks. We had a number of notes on that, and then wildlife mobility as well. The flooding of septic tanks, we had a couple of interesting notes there, including that the team should consider, at least qualitatively, the idea that when the septic tank was constructed will have a large impact on some of its regulations and on its overall health. Something that is built long ago will be much more much more apt to have issues in a flood event down the line. I mentioned wildlife mobility as well. This is where we discussed impacts to tourism as well. Wildlife is very, very important in southern Florida, not only just to have a healthy ecosystem, but also for our tourism purposes. People love to come and see the beautiful wildlife that we have here. Moving on to our final section, other social effects. The two primary performance metrics here that our participants were interested in are PM2, physical health, flooding impact overall to just physical health, transportation to and from hospitals, and then PM5, life safety in general. Life safety is of course paramount to all of these projects. And we had a specific recommendation on life. Oh, another interesting aspect of life safety that I think we might want to bring in a qualitative way to the discussion is the importance of just feeling safe, frankly. So, recent flood events have caused some individuals in South Florida to experience just, uncertainty and fear of potentially another flood event happening in the future. And so not only by implementing a project, not only are lives potentially saved, but also just additional peace of mind to the residents of South Florida. So that's my wrap up of those three sections. If Maurice or Fernando have any more comments, then they are free to talk now.
There was some data that had been mentioned. I don't know if we want to mention that here, but I've got a few notes on some potential data that might come into play for further evaluation potentially. There was mention of an FDOT, I think it was a sea level rise study that sort of had an assessment on to transportation systems. There was also mention of some new high resolution LiDAR data that will be available in the coming months that may become useful for floodplain mapping. Let's see. There was mention of a water management district salinity density dependent groundwater model that may be considered. Let's see what else here. There was mention of Metropolitan Planning Organization. I think it was an accessibility analysis that may have some use for looking at social or cultural impacts. And there was mention of potentially using the FDOT intelligent transportation systems to help inform the public on potential life safety issues.
Yeah, so we got some really wonderful data recommendations from the group. Fernando, did you have anything to add?
That was the point I wanted to bring, what Maurice just said about that data that was mentioned during our breakout section. Yeah, I think you covered it, Maurice.
Right, then that's probably it for Reach A. If any of the moderators wanted us to add more, then you can ask now. Otherwise, we can move on to D.
Hey, thank you for the input. Great job, and thank you for all the attendees. Reach A, really great. Maybe we can move to Reach B.
Hi everyone. This is Dell with Reach B. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
I can hear you.
All right, thank you guys. So yeah, for RAD, we had a very robust discussion about business disruptions and about lost income. We talked about the road systems, how we're trying to measure those things, the difference between business losses and income losses, and how we're planning to measure those things. We also talked about historic data on business downtime. Same thing with tax incomes. We had a decently long talk about construction jobs and about recreation as well, about things like parks and pools and the types of recreation that is located within Reach B. And as far as environmental quality went, we decided that the most important metric in that account was water supply. So surface and groundwater. We talked about measuring headwaters and tailwaters. We even went back to this at the very end when I opened it up to more comments. That's how important it was. Operational flexibility. Environmental resource loss was our second highest one. So we talked about biodiversity, talked about hydro periods, looking at stage durations and the areas flooded. Septic tanks, we talked about that a good deal as well. We talked about our existing data and about how there is a process in place to replace all of these septic tanks with sewer lines and the process they're going through for that. And waste, we went through waste systems, and how they have to deal with both water and sewage water and storm water during storm events, which causes stress on the systems. And industrial, we talked about, we had GIS open data for industrial facilities, so we can get data for that. And then for wildlife, we talked about that briefly, manatees and how iguanas need to die. For OSC, we talked about, we did have a discussion about hospitals and healthcare facilities. This is the wrong one. I took lots of notes. Hospitals and healthcare facilities and the types that we are looking at. We talked about evacuation centers and bus stops and whether neighborhoods become isolated during storms, making it more difficult for them versus non-isolated neighborhoods to get access to healthcare. We talked about community centers and what we consider community centers and the difference between that and cultural resources. We included EJ in that discussion as well. And then I have one more that I can't find here. And then we talked about life safety, which we agreed was a broad subject, and we discussed what we were looking for in life safety. We talked about how more affluent neighborhoods would be less likely to be in any kind of danger versus more vulnerable communities. Yeah, we had a very good, robust discussion. We took up basically the entire 3 hours, got lots of good ideas from the group. If Jessica or Amanda or John Simon would like to add anything, go ahead.
I think you
Hey,
covered
Dale,
everything, Dale. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was about to say the same thing. Sounds good.
Perfect. Thank you, guys. And that's all for Reach B. On to Reach C.
Thank you, Del.
All right, thank you, Del. All right, so I was the moderator for Reach C. My name is Kenneth. I do economics with Corps of Engineers. So our discussion is not unlike everyone else here so far. So for the Regional Economic Development Account, we had a good discussion about the loss of income and employment, local business revenue and tax revenue. We talked about the correlation between them, and we talked about the priority of it as well. So the conclusion that we came to is that we would put the loss of income and employment as our top regional economic development performance metric to potentially prioritize, and we would have recreational activities as a secondary to that. And we managed to talk a bit about specific parks that actually do get flooding and the recreational impact of that, as well as the depth and duration, which is a pretty interesting thing to get to know. We also talked about potentially looking at the medical district as a area of interest in lost income unemployment, as that was brought up as a major source of employment in REACH C, specifically REACH C. And that's my main takeaways from the RED discussion. If Dana or Hong Ying have any other bits of information they'd like to add that is a bit more granular, feel free to chime in. We did get a good amount of suggestions data-wise of things that we can take a look at, which is nice. But if Hong Ying and Dana don't have anything to add for the RED account, we can move on to the REACH C discussion on the EQ account.
I think you summarized it very well. Yeah, I don't have anything to add.
Okay. All right, wonderful. Dana, you have anything? Okay. All right, so let's move on to the environmental quality account. Now, we got the opportunity of, no, we cannot. I don't know if you. Okay, we're going to move on to chat about the our takeaways from the environmental quality account. So, like Group A, we also had plenty of discussion for PM2, the water supply impact due to salinity intrusion, and we went through and also talked about environmental resource loss, septic tanks, wildlife mobility, and most importantly, potential data sources that we can use to quantify the impacts of these performance measures. And the bottom line conclusion that we came to is we chose to prioritize PM3, that is flooding septic tanks, PM2, water supply impact due to salinity intrusion, and PM6 and 7, which is the impacts to municipal and commercial waste fuel systems and impacts to industrial facilities. And we decided to group 6 and 7 together because they're fairly comparable. And we talked about potential species to look at for wildlife mobility, endangered bird species. We talked about potentially looking at manatees and the impact that projects could have on their mobility as they like to go upstream to get into warmer waters and whatnot. We decided to talk about data sources that we can use to potentially scope out the quantity of species and where they might be. U.S. Fish and Wildlife was just one of them, and there were others. And for PM6 and 7, taking a look at potential ground sites and other related sites in GIS and juxtaposing that with inundation flood maps to potentially quantify that. That's my main takeaway from our discussion for the EQ account for REACH C. And once again, I open the floor up to Hong Ying and Dana if they have anything to add to that.
I asked for Dana to be unmuted. Is that possible? Dana, you might have to unmute your own button once you give him permission.
And this is Hong Yin. Yeah, you covered it very well, and I don't have anything to add.
Okay, Dana?
Yeah.
I just want to add, I talked to Devon. He does have her as a co-host, so you're right, Jenny. It might just be Dana if you could unmute yourself. Maybe we'll just come back to Dana.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Like there could be a technical difficulty going on, and we can
Yes.
always touch base at the end of all of this. So I'm going to go
Dana?
ahead and cover our final account,
Just a
OC
moment.
account. And
Dana did say in the chat there's a warning sign next to her unmute button.
That's strange. Okay, Kenneth, can you please go ahead with the OSE while Dana figures that out?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. So with our OSC account for REACH C, similar to the conclusion that REACH A came to, our priorities came down to PM2, that is physical health, limited access to hospitals and whatnot, and PM5, life safety. We did have a good discussion on potential data sources that we can use to quantify the impact. We took a look at Department of Transportation evacuation routes and zones to see which ran parallel or in close proximity to hospitals. We discussed the possibility of using traffic counts on those roads and cross-referencing that with hospital visitation numbers to quantify the impact of that as well. And we decided to place as a secondary priority community identity and cultural resources together. We talked about a county study that actually identifies historical resources in the areas that are potentially subject to flooding, which is a potentially valuable data source that we can use in our own study to do that as well. And we actually also talked about a potential tribal impact because I guess there's a sort of unofficial embassy along one of the canals that could potentially be impacted by inundation as well, and that could be an EJ concern. But that was our main takeaways to REACH C on the way that we prioritize things and some of the data ideas that we have to quantify it. And I once again open up the floor to my group if they have anything else to add to that.
Again, I don't have anything to add, but I will upload my notes and share it with you.
All right, sounds good. Okay, well, I think we can move on to REACH D now. The floor is yours.
Thanks, Ken. Oh. Hey, thanks, Ken. This is Colin from economics, and I'm just briefly speaking to REACH D. Yeah, we not surprisingly had a lot of overlap with some of the other reaches. A lot of the same topics were discussed, but we in REACH D, not surprisingly, given the land use and given the type of development, we had a very healthy, extensive discussion about potential agricultural impacts, how we might measure them. In the RED account and the extent to which it may overlap with some of the other accounts, including NED. The term that was used was really interesting, is a patchwork quilt of different crops that are grown. It's actually very complex from the standpoint of the different crops that are grown and their various sensitivities to potential flooding. You have a whole range of different crops, including avocados that are potentially very sensitive to water levels. So that was a good discussion, and we talked about some specific data sources and reports that we're going to hopefully be able to utilize. So a little bit of homework for us to do on that, but really good discussion of those impacts. Also, good discussion of tourism, recreation, and potential utilization of the parks that are in REACH D or adjacent to it, and how that could be affected by either the project alternatives or also the the flooding we're likely to see without project condition, and how we might measure that. We did talk a little bit about business disruption and some of the metrics that we had already penciled in, including the potential for lost wages among workers, and including agricultural workers, and a discussion of kind of how we might measure that, and to what extent it might inform the plan formulation. So those were all big topics of conversation, and we briefly went through the performance metrics we already have, and it talked about just the nature of quantification and the tools that we're going to be using. So very healthy discussion on that. Really interesting stuff, and some good follow-up actions to take to gather information, particularly about agriculture. So I'm going to pause there, and there were a number of other folks, very healthy participants, including Tim and Gustavo and Nicole, who may have things to add. Over.
Hey, Colin, it's Nicole. Yeah, I agree that definitely. Well, one, we have the luck of being the last reach here, so we can see a lot of this overlap. we did have a lot of those topics, but definitely Reach D had a certain kind of level of uniqueness because of the agricultural work that's being done there. We actually had the agricultural manager from Miami-Dade County online, and he really shared some outstanding statistics about, the dollar amount per acreage of agricultural production that Miami-Dade produces being the highest in the state, even though it's second to production not based on acreage to Palm Beach County. So that was really helpful. He's already provided that data and information, some GIS layers on that. But also related to the agricultural discussion, we talked a lot about this water supply piece and, agricultural drawdowns, kind of having to balance the water supply amount of water in the ground versus flood protection. So we discussed some ways of looking at that from different standpoints. So that's specifically for the red account. And then, of course, from the National Park Service, we did receive a comment about the Biscayne Bay economic study that came out last year from the county and the district. And right there's a lot of information about both the economic benefits and then the environmental benefits that Biscayne Bay has, that the park has. A lot of the concerns there were more related to flooding and, environmental quality things, which takes me, before I move over to environmental quality, I did want to say another topic that came up was the things that are happening down in the mitigation lands that are kind of also a patchwork owned by both the county's EO program as well as some private mitigation lands and things that are happening there, like rock quarries that might be impacted if there's flooding. So that's an economic impact there. On the topic of environmental quality, so this one was moderated by Cassandra, who's our subject matter expert there. We did have the same situation I hear from the other reaches. We went over the model. Carol provided, kind of a clear overview of what the model actually will output. And the same discussion came up on water supply, on septic tanks. I brought up some information that we've heard from our water supply subject matter experts about looking at vector flow data, if we can't necessarily look at water quality parameters that talk about saltwater intrusion. But FDAX was also on the line, and they talked about groundwater storage capability, which would be really great. And then looking at specific, saying that it's harder to look at like flood indicators because they vary from area to area, but some areas are more apt for flooding, and so we can talk about water supply issues versus flooding. And then on the topic of wildlife monitoring, something that came up was the item on manatees, but also we talked about wading birds and how wading birds are a good indicator, especially again down in Reach D, which is a very distinct kind of area because of the C111 basin and its proximity to agricultural areas and the parks. Wading bird surveys can provide some information about, is it just the right depth for there to be prey or just the right depth for there to be nesting happening in these areas? So that's one item that came up, and the district has some data on that, but then also the Park Service offered to provide some data there on performance metrics that they use for wildlife. And then on the topic of OSC, the other very important social factors, Colin and myself tackled this one as moderators for this topic. Something that came out really great of this is, again, from the agricultural manager, we got some information about a group that really helps to get information to the workers that are down there, the farm workers who might be linguistically isolated. But during the pandemic, there was already a big effort to make sure that they're getting information that they need, as that was an emergency scenario. And so we might be able to get some information from that. The other topic that came up was population density. That was a really great discussion because through Resilient Florida or through the Corps' guidance is going to be coming out, there's some room for how we look at density. We don't just have to give importance to a high density area. We can also look at low density areas that maybe are more spread out, these rural communities. And then we also talked about historical significance. The data set that Ken pointed to was also shared with us from the county, that looks at both already designated areas, but areas that might also be on the docket for designation in the future. So that's also really helpful. And we also confirmed that through the pollution control group at Durham, we can also get information about septic tanks, if not just FDEP. So those are the additional items I wanted to flag.
Great. Thanks so much, Nicole. That's outstanding. Yeah, great summary. I actually had to step out unexpectedly from the room in the last session, so I missed the last bit of that. But great summary. I think that pretty much covers. I'm just looking at my notes. We did both in environmental and EQ and a little bit in RD talk about potential saltwater intrusion impacts. So that's something we discussed. We did talk about. I'm glad you mentioned the rock mine was one in particular that there was some concern about, both potential damages to the mine, but also lost economic activity. So that was discussed. And like you said, very healthy conversation about life safety considerations, life safety risks, and environmental justice. And one of the aspects of that, like you said, Nicole, was kind of the linguistically isolated community. So yeah, that's all I would have to add to that. I don't know if Gustavo or Tim or anyone else who's in the room would like to chime in as well. But yeah, really, really great discussion with some good suggestions, ideas, and opportunities for follow-up. Over.
Yeah, thank you, Colin and Nicole. This is Gustavo Suarez. I don't have anything else. You covered everything that we're discussing for Reach D. So thank you. Thank you, Jenny, and thank you for the team for the summary. Now we have Team Gaisa with closing remarks for today's workshop.
Great, thanks, Gustavo. I want to start off by saying thank you to everybody who's joined us over the last 2 days. It's been a good 4 hours with us this morning. It's really appreciated you taking the time out of your extremely busy schedules to provide us input on this project. So again, thank you for your participation. We look forward to seeing a lot of you again as we continue forward. As I mentioned earlier in our Reach D discussion, we understand that a lot of ideas may pop in your heads as you kind of get a chance to digest everything we've covered. So please feel free to reach out and provide any additional specific feedback that you may think of over the next few weeks. This is definitely not your final opportunity to provide us input. And I know I mentioned yesterday our next step will be to have a workshop to discuss the model output data and go over that in detail with everybody. So I'm sure once you get a chance to visually see kind of the extent of what the models are showing as far as future flooding, those may trigger additional ideas in your heads. So we look forward to kind of sharing that information with you and then giving you a chance to go digest it and work with it. And then we'll all get back together then at the end of May and talk about what we're seeing, what our evaluations are showing. So lots of opportunities as we move forward to continue this discussion and talk about what we're seeing from the data. So again, really appreciate everybody's time and all the great feedback that we heard today, and look forward to continue our efforts as we move forward on this really important project in Dade and Broward counties. I don't know if Carolina is still on, if she has anything she'd like to add before we adjourn.
Thank you, team. Yeah, thank you very much, team, for your closing remarks. I think you said the main important things that we are all kind of focusing now, really bringing those future without modeling results so people can understand a little bit better where we are seeing those vulnerabilities. And of course, maybe new performance metrics will come, and we appreciate, of course, your input between now and as we develop those evaluations. We will be certainly keeping you all informed about what we are doing, how we are summarizing the data, and also about the new workshop dates. As soon as we confirm those upcoming dates, we will get the word out. We are very close to also confirm the April date already. So please be attentive to our emails. And as I said in the beginning of this and the opening of this 2-day workshop, we really appreciate your time. we will need creativity here as we advance with those evaluations, and we do not have very strong databases to quantify all those benefits that we want to bring to the table. But at the same time, I think with some creativity and some ways that we can really work with the data, we will be able to have the big picture here on a more comprehensive way. And again, we really appreciate you all joining us, spending the afternoon and the morning with us today, your input at any time. And again, please stay in touch. Thank you, team.
All right. Well, thank you, Carolina. Gustavo, is there anything else you need to add, or we can go ahead and adjourn?
I'll go to the next slide, Jenny. Yeah, thank you, team and Carolina. And just reminder, send any additional information or comments to our email, to our project email. And want to reiterate, thank you for the participation. And has been 2 days, and I think we have good discussions today, and that's all what I have. Thank you, and back to you, Tim.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your Friday and have a great weekend. We'll look forward to talking to you all again soon.
Thank you, everyone.